Hello, my name is JD, also known as JD Beauty. On this channel, I talk about all things beauty, and I got my work do-rag on. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I just got done watching a movie, so you know what that means? It's time for another Glam and Gore. But before we get to the movies, before we get to thanking subscribers, before we get to anything, it's as good as it's gonna get. Now leave me alone about it. Anyway, before we get to the movie, I of course have to thank my subscribers, but y'all haven't learned anything. It's a new day, but that doesn't mean anything. I think I got like 2, 3, no, some more subscribers, and can't see them. So thanks to you guys, I guess, whoever you may be. Like I said, today we got another Glam and Gore video, and today we'll be covering Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. This is possibly the first slasher. Don't hold me to that. I only know what I know, and I don't know a lot. So this movie follows a group of young adults, I suppose, as they go on a road trip or something. I don't know. They're in a car, and that's what matters. On this trip, they stumble across some places that they shouldn't be, and they stumble across some people that they shouldn't meet. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a series of movies, most of which are not that great, but all of which are memorable. Think about that for a second. By the way, why hasn't Friday the 13th gotten a remake? All the other ones have. Anyway, I need to lock in. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe even 2. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. It's 1:52. Let's see if we can get this video done in a timely manner, and let's see if I can do my makeup in a timely manner. I'm trying to pace myself in a way where that I'm not done with my makeup too quickly while I'm going through everything, and also I'm not getting done too late. I'm trying to pace it. I'm trying to get it together. I have a general idea of what I want to do for my makeup. We're gonna see if it ends up that way. But without further ado, before we get to the movie, take this thing off, get this together. I also forgot to moisturize my face. That's, you know, my primer is shea butter by my mom. The jar is practically empty. I'm about to scrape all these corners though, I guarantee you that. For a second I thought I wasn't recording. I was about to get really upset. I would've got right back in the bed. Let me tell you something. I don't appreciate inconveniences. That's why I'm struggling with my job right now. Anyway, without further ado, let's get to the movie. The movie begins with a voiceover narration from some guy just basically telling us about the journey we will be going on with this movie. He tells us that this movie will be following a woman named Sally and her brother named Franklin, along with their group of friends, as they journey together and end up in some circumstances. But he doesn't tell us everything that happens, because that's what the movie's for, not the narration. We then see the date, August 18th, 1973, flash across the screen, followed by the sound of digging. We hear the repeated sound of a weird, extremely loud camera noise as we see someone taking pictures of some dead bodies. And this weird camera noise will become very prevalent in almost every Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. We cut to an image of a dead body that appears to be strung up somehow, as we hear a report of a string of several grave robbings happening in Texas. And while some have been found just hanging up in cemeteries, other bodies have not been found. We continue to hear the same report as we get our title card, followed by credits. We then cut to an image of a random dead armadillo as a van drives by it. We focus on the van as it pulls over on the side of the road, and a man gets out of it, opens up the back door, sets up a ramp, and then helps this is not what I want to use, helps a man in a wheelchair get down the ramp. He gives the man in the wheelchair a can, and then the man in the wheelchair rolls himself out a little bit further to relieve himself. A truck driving past the van produces a particularly strong gust of wind, which then blows this man in the wheelchair down the hill. He rolls out of his chair, but that doesn't really mean too much. They get him back up, they get back in the van. I don't know what that scene was fully for, but just a segue into introducing our main characters. Now that we're inside of this van, we can introduce our characters, because this time around I am not doing the whole waiting until a character's name is said to introduce them thing. Old movies take way too long to say characters' names, okay? Way too long. Way too long. If you watched the Halloween Glam and Gore video, how long did it take to find out what Loomis's name was? Go and watch it. Go and watch it and see. In this group, we have the man in the wheelchair. His name is Franklin. His sister, Sally. Sally's boyfriend, Jerry, who is driving. And then their friends, Pam, and Pam's boyfriend, Kirk. Not Kurt. I'm gonna keep trying to say Kurt in my head, but it's Kirk. The gang stops at a cemetery, and everyone gets out together except for Franklin, as Sally goes to ask about her grandfather who was buried in that cemetery, because obviously there has been grave robbings, and she wants to make sure that her grandfather's body is still there. Anyway, the pit stop only lasts a moment, and the gang immediately gets back into the car, where Sally assures Franklin that their grandfather's body is definitely still there. The grave was not dug up, everything's fine. While they're driving, everyone starts to notice a horrible smell, and Franklin says, oh, it's the old slaughterhouse. And he proceeds to go into how their family used to work at the slaughterhouse. It started with their grandfather and now their uncle. He proceeds to go into a story about how before the more humane method of slaughtering animals, which is using a sort of air gun which propels a bolt into the animal's head. Before then, they used to just use a good old hammer and, clock the animal in the head. But that wasn't very humane, so they moved on to the other route. As they're driving, one of the girls, I'm not entirely sure which one, they point out that there's a hitchhiker in the road. The gang talks about whether or not they should pick this hitchhiker up, and after some deliberation, they eventually pull over and let the hitchhiker get inside. The incredibly shifty hitchhiker is questioned by the gang, and he says that his brother works at the slaughterhouse. He and Franklin go back and forth about what is the more humane way of slaughtering the animals, the air gun with the bolt or the old hammer. Franklin says that he knows that the bolt is the more humane way, but this shifty hitchhiker is like, he is a hick, sorry. The shifty hitchhiker is like, oh, no, it's much better to do with the hammer. The hitchhiker pulls out some Polaroid pictures from his weird little pouch that he's got going on, and then he proceeds to show everyone the images of slaughtered animals hanging up that he just carries around in his little pouch, I guess. Everyone is very clearly disgusted by this, but again, they don't kick him out after this. Instead, Franklin cleans his nails with his little pocket knife, and while he's doing that, hitchhiker suddenly reaches out and grabs the knife. Everyone's like, hey, maybe put that down. Instead of listening, the hitchhiker proceeds to drag the knife across his hand, causing himself to bleed. And again, no one kicks him out. He's, they're like, hey, don't do that. And he's like, slice, looks them dead in their souls, laughs about it a little bit, hands the knife back to Franklin. The hitchhiker shows off a little blade that he has in his little boot. And everyone's like, hey, yeah, put that one away too. Stop holding sharp objects. Despite the group being very clearly disturbed by everything, I forgot to grab my contour. Please hold. Despite the group being very clearly disturbed by everything that's going on, the hitchhiker doesn't seem to care too much. Instead, he pulls out his Polaroid camera from around his neck, and he proceeds to take a picture of Franklin. After taking the picture, the hitchhiker's like, oh, why don't you guys just drop me off at my house? It's right up the road. And everybody else in the car is like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't do that, sir. If it's so close, maybe you should just walk there instead. The hitchhiker's like, but you guys can come to family dinner. And everyone's like, no, it's cool. The hitchhiker then takes the not developed photo and shows it to the group. And he's like, hey, it's a good picture, right? And they're like, not really. And he's like, all right, well, you can go ahead and give me my $2 for that picture. And they're like, yeah, we're not paying you for the picture, bro. And he's like, but please. And they're like, but no. With them denying buying his picture, hitchhiker proceeds to pull out some foil from his little weird pouch around his neck. He opens it up, places the photo on top of it. I thought he was about to do like some drugs. I don't know how drugs work, I saw foil, and I saw him create a flat surface with the photo, and I was like, drugs. It's not drugs though. He pulls something out of his little pouch, sprinkles it on the picture, sets it on fire. Everyone obviously freaks out about that. While everyone's freaking out, they finally decide to take some action, and they finally kick the hitchhiker out of their van. The hitchhiker isn't too pleased about this. He proceeds to blow some raspberries, he kicks the car, he wipes his bloody hand on the side of the van, and that's just that as they pull off. We then get the obligatory gas station pit stop scene that every horror movie usually has. The group stops at a gas station, the girls get out to use the bathroom, the boys stay inside as they talk to the gas station owner. The boys ask the gas station owner to fill the van up, and he's like, oh, we don't got no gas. And they're like, what do you mean you don't have gas? You're at a gas station. That's your only job is to have gas. He's like, oh yeah, the tank's empty, and the refill won't be until I think later in the day or the next day or something like that. Franklin's like, oh, well, can you just tell us where the old Franklin house is? Guess that's a family name, I don't know. And the gas station owner's like, oh, you don't want to go mess with people's property. I wouldn't suggest going up there. And Franklin's like, oh, no, my dad owns that. Station owner is like, oh, your dad owns it, that's swell, but I still wouldn't suggest going up there. It's old, it's abandoned. Those girls probably don't want to go up there. I wouldn't suggest it. The gas station owner's like, okay, instead of doing whatever you're trying to do, how about you just stay here, stay with us, have some barbecue, everything's chill here, you know? Obviously, he is suspicious of something at, in, or around the Franklin household. Jerry gets out of the car to go ask the station owner if, perchance, there is another station somewhere nearby for them to fill up at, which leaves Kirk and Franklin in the car to talk. As the girls get back into the van, Franklin says that they should just stop by their dad's house anyway, because it's there. He says there's a cool little spot to swim in. They might as well just head there. And so, despite the station owner's warnings, they decide to head there. Back inside of the van, the group approaches their father's house. It is eerie and overgrown and kind of disgusting looking. That does not stop the group from venturing inside anyway. As they get out and gather around the van, Franklin is apparently the only one who is considering the possibility of the hitchhiker following them as he looks at the blood that he left on the side of the van. No one else seems to be concerned about that at all, as they all just want to go inside and check out the house, which is, again, abandoned and overgrown. Franklin is left outside on his own, while the rest of the group goes to check out inside. Sally is showing Pam and Jerry her old childhood room. Franklin is struggling to get inside of the house, and he starts to call for Sally, but they're too busy laughing obnoxiously loud to hear him. Eventually, he makes it inside by himself, and he, gets a little frustrated hearing them upstairs laughing without him, which is reasonable. You guys are just kind of like leaving him out. While Franklin is having a generally bad time, Kirk and Pam come back downstairs, and they're like, hey, remember when you said that there was like a cool little pond around here or whatever that we can swim in? Where's that at? Franklin eventually just, tells them the details of how to find it. And Kirk's like, all right, cool. We'll see you sometime later. Franklin's like, right, yeah, whatever, I don't care. Pretty much the second that they leave, Franklin enters another room and notices what looks like a pile of bones sitting on a blanket. And as he gets, obviously a little concerned about that, Franklin is about to call for help. He looks up to yell. He sees more bones hanging from the doorway, which is cause for concern. We then cut to Kirk and Pam as they are just kind of running together. They're running down this hill to get to the trail that Franklin told them about. As they're running down the hill, Kirk rolls his ankle. Instead of going to the pond that they're supposed to be finding, instead, they continue to wander around until Kirk finds a fence. He looks through the fence and then calls Pam over. He's like, look at this here. She looks in, and it appears to be kind of like a junkyard area with a bunch of abandoned cars in there. They decide to check it out. A little bit of trespassing. They see a generator, which is extremely loud, blocks out a lot of noise. As they make their way further onto the land, they notice that there is also a house on this land. They want to ask for some help, on the topic of gas and whatnot. So they approach the house, and Kirk goes to knock on the door. While he gets no response from knocking, he does, however, step on something on the porch. He bends down to pick it up. It is a whole molar, like a tooth. And he's like, oh, here. And he hands it to Pam, and she's very obviously disgusted. She drops it. She's like, let's get out of here. She walks off, but not too far. She goes to sit down while she waits for Kirk because he is still insistent on getting into this house. Kirk knocks one more time, and this time around when he knocks, the door opens. Kirk calls inside. He's like, yo, is someone here? But again, no one responds. He calls inside a few more times while Pam, again, tries to get him to just leave and come back with her. But instead of listening to his girlfriend, Kirk decides to add invading to his list of crimes for the day. He breaks and enters into this house. I guess he doesn't really break, but he definitely enters into the house. He kind of stands around at the door for a second, but then he is drawn further in by the sound of a pig squealing. He goes across from the doorway to a room that has a bunch of animal heads hung up on the wall, because why don't you approach that room? He doesn't manage to get far into the room before he is hit over the head by a large man. This man has a mask that looks like a human face over his face, and he's also wearing an apron of some sort. This is our killer, Leatherface. And, usually I would wait until the name is revealed, but that's way at the end of the movie. I'm not doing that. I'm just not. I'm not about to refer to this guy as the masked killer, the large man. His name's Leatherface, and we get an iconic scene that these movies struggle to replicate. He drags Kirk inside of that room and then slams a metal door shut. We then get an even more iconic shot. I wouldn't say even more. We get another iconic shot. Many people attempt to replicate it. Everyone needs to stop. But it is the scene of Pam walking through the field towards the house. It's like a low angle shot. You just see her red shorts. It's not like a penny shot, but it's tasteful for the 70s. Pam very clearly does not want to enter this house, but she does want her boyfriend back, so she hesitantly makes her way inside. She stumbles into a room where she knocks over a vase and falls into what appears to be a pile of fur, feathers, bones, everything. She slowly looks around the room. She notices a lot of odd things, such as a chicken hanging up in a cage. Whatever, sure, why not? Little pet. A bit more concerning is that a lot of these bones appear strikingly human. Freaking out, Pam runs out in search of Kirk, but instead she is confronted by Leatherface. As he chases her out of the house, she just barely manages to get outside before he grabs her from behind, drags her back inside. He takes her into this room that appears to be like a mini little slaughter room, and he grabs her, picks her up, hangs her up on a meat hook through her back. She's just alive, hanging there. Horrible. While Pam struggles up on that meat hook, Leatherface then proceeds to start up a chainsaw. Pam is a little freaked out by that, obviously, but Leatherface doesn't use that on her right now. Instead, he turns to the body that is laying there on the table, obviously Kirk's, and he proceeds to chop it up. While Pam screams in absolute terror, we then cut back to the Van gang, the remaining ones at least, where Jerry, Sally, and Franklin are just standing around. Franklin's talking about the hitchhiker, still concerned that he might come back for them. Jerry's messing with him. Sally doesn't really care too much about her brother being tormented. Jerry's like, well, I'm gonna go look for the other two. You two stay here. Be right back. He walks off, leaving the siblings together. We cut to Jerry as he approaches the house that Kirk and Pam disappeared into. He knocks on the door, and when no one answers, he goes to walk away. But before he can get too far, he hears the sound of giggling, and he turns back. Thinking that the giggling is Pam messing with him, he decides to also break and enter this house. Well, not really break, just enter, but still. He decides to enter this house, and he walks into that same room that Kirk and Pam disappeared into. He hears some knocking from the room as he approaches it, and he is very clearly confused about that. He follows the sound of the knocking until he realizes that it's coming from the deep freezer that is in this room, so he very boldly decides to open it. Inside of the deep freezer, we see Pam. She jolts awake, and then she just kind of falls flat again. I guess she might have not been dead, but now she's dead. Don't know. Either way, she's in that freezer. Once Pam pops out of this deep freezer, Jerry stumbles away, but as he's doing that, he stumbles right into Leatherface. Leatherface clonks him over the head with a sledgehammer, and goodbye, Jerry. Previously, I thought that he didn't die because right after that, Leatherface stuffs Pam back into the freezer, and then he goes to search around the house, which I guess he was searching if there's anyone else there. I thought, from the way that he was looking around, that Jerry got away. I guess not. Back at the van, Sally is blowing the horn for the rest of the van gang. Franklin, who everyone treats as if he is stupid, is clearly the smartest character in the room because he says, maybe we should go for help. He suggests the gas station. Maybe we should go there, ask for help instead of just going out into the dark woods to look for our friends. But Sally says, no, I'm gonna go look for them. You stay here. I'll be back. Franklin goes around to the driver's side of the car. He says he's gonna blow the horn one more time, but he's really looking to see if the keys are there. They're not. Jerry took them. He gets upset, starts blowing the horn, and Sally gets upset at him and tells him to stop honking the horn. And she says, just give me the flashlight. I'm gonna go look for Jerry. And Franklin, being a good brother, is like, no, I'm not. No, you can't go by yourself. I'll go with you. Sally's like, I can't push your wheelchair down that whole trail. Franklin refuses to let go of the flashlight, and eventually Sally just gives in, and the two begin the trek through this dark trail to find their friends. As they're going down this trail, Franklin keeps saying that he hears something, and of course they're assuming that it's their friends. It doesn't take too long before they as well begin to see the house, the secondary house, in the distance, but before they can get too close to it, Ghostface pops out. Ghostface says he has no time for games, he doesn't want to wait anymore, and he proceeds to take his chainsaw and just saw into Franklin. He might be sawing him apart, just cutting into him. Who knows? We don't see that. This is the 70s. Sally screams a bit and then it's like, yeah, let me get out of here, and proceeds to sprint. When I say sprint, I mean that Sally and Sidney Prescott from the Scream franchise should be in the running, no pun intended, for final girls who just sprint. They no breaks, just running. Sally Face runs and Leatherface chases her. Eventually she gets stuck in some branches, but this girl is not going down like that. So she gets herself free while Leatherface attempts to get to her. Sally runs towards the house that she is not aware is Leatherface's, and bangs on the door. Obviously no one answers, so she runs around to the previous door, the back door, I guess, which everyone has been entering through. She runs inside, she runs upstairs, she goes into this upstairs room that might be an attic, and she sees these people sitting in these chairs, so she runs over to them. She stumbles to her knees and she's begging for help. She looks up, she sees a dead body. She's like, oh, say no more. Turns around, second dead body in the second chair. She runs out of there, runs back down the stairs to get out of there, but as she's trying to get out, oh, by the way, she locked the door behind her, and Leatherface is hacking through it. And as she's about to run back out the door, Leatherface finally gets through the door, saws through it, gets inside, and starts to chase Sally back up the stairs. And Sally, running off of pure survival instincts, jumps out of the second story window. Top final girl. Top survivor. She said, you're not getting me. She jumps out, and while Leatherface runs back downstairs, she proceeds to continue running after jumping out of the window. Knowing that there's only one place nearby, Sally continues to run until she gets to that gas station they stopped at. She tries to get in through one door as Leatherface chases her, but that door is locked, so she runs to the next door. She runs inside, the gas station owner is there. She's like, she closes the door, she's like, help, please. She's sobbing, screaming. She needs help, she can barely get her words out. She can't breathe. Sally begs the station owner to call the police, and he's like, there's no phone here. We're gonna have to drive a bit out to a different place to get a phone and call the police. He says, stay here. I'm gonna go get my truck, I'm gonna pull it around, and then we can go. Station owner leaves Sally in this station, and he goes to get his truck, and sometime later, while Sally is just like anticipating someone coming through that door, someone being Leatherface, station owner eventually pulls back up, and as he gets out of his truck, he grabs some things and he comes back to the door, and Sally immediately notices that what he's got in his hands are a bag and some rope. And she's like, oh, no. And he's like, no, calm down. And she's like, not calming down. And he's like, don't make this hard. And she's like, absolutely not. She pulls a knife that was on the station counter. While she's trying to figure out what to do, the station owner grabs a broom, knocks the knife out of her hands, and then proceeds to just beat her with the broom, tormenting her because why not? He gets her down onto the ground and then hits her a few more times with the broom, knocks her out. Once she's out, he turns her over onto her stomach, puts her arms behind her back, ties her up, puts the bag over her head, and then drags her out to the truck. The station owner drives back to the house, and he stops just in front of it when he notices the hitchhiker walking just in front of his truck. Because in case you didn't guess, hitchhiker's not a good guy. Station owner gets out of the truck to berate hitchhiker. He's telling him that he's supposed to stay away from those graveyards, and he's supposed to stay with his brother, not leave him alone, all these different things. Station owner tells hitchhiker to go ahead and grab Sally, and they make their way into the house, where we get another iconic line of the station owner going, "Look what your brother did to that star!" Leatherface enters and gets chased around the house by the station owner, while hitchhiker ties up Sally into a chair and proceeds to torment her a little bit more while she screams, because obviously she is terrified of this entire situation. Station owner asks Leatherface where the other bodies are, and Leatherface explains in mostly squealing sounds where everyone is, basically pointing, but still making squealing sounds. Station owner berates Leatherface a little bit more, and then calls out for Hitchhiker to go upstairs and grab Grandpa. Hitchhiker comes back with the previously assumed dead body that was upstairs. Apparently he's not dead, he just looks like that. Then he calls for Leatherface and asks him to help bring Grandpa downstairs. Leatherface goes, they bring him downstairs, and they situate him at the head of the table where Sally also is. Sally's like, ew, and I'm like, ew. Understandable, girl, I get it. He's kind of gross looking. Leatherface grabs Sally's hand, gets one of her fingers, slices it, and then proceeds to stick it into Grandpa's gross, undead mouth, and he sucks on it. He gets passionate with it. He gets a little lively. He does his little dancey dance. He's over there like, as he's sucking on her bloody finger. The family's kind of weird, you know? Sometime later, Sally wakes up and immediately starts screaming as she remembers where she is. And then the hitchhiker and Leatherface also start screaming, because why not? They only stop screaming when the station owner tells them to, and realizing that they listen to him kinda sorta, Sally says, you can make them stop. And hitchhiker's like, no, he can't. He can't do anything. He doesn't even kill. And station owner's like, yeah, I can't do the killing, it's too much, but I can do the cooking. If you do the cooking by the book. Sally does a lot of screaming, and we get some kind of weird cuts of her screaming and moving around, and then we get some weird close-up shots of her eye as she's screaming. She has some really pretty green eyes, but I'm very confused on the choice in the shots that are taken here, you know? Station owner is about to leave the room because, again, he doesn't like killing, and he's telling the boys to just hurry up and get it over with. Don't play with her. Just kill her. But Hitchhiker says he wants Grandpa to do the killing because station owner swears up and down that Grandpa used to be the best killer out there. He used to get him done in one hit with the hammer. Just bow, get him out of there. Since Grandpa's the best, they decided to just let Grandpa have this one. We get some more weird close-up shots of Sally screaming as Hitchhiker grabs her and brings her over to Grandpa, who's now at the other end of the table, and gets her ready for murder via old man, I guess. Hitchhiker gets her down on the ground, and everyone's cheering on Grandpa as Leatherface gets a nice little hammer. He puts it in Grandpa's hand, and everyone's like, go on, Grandpa, do it. I just want everyone to understand. I know I'm going to put in visuals, but I need you to understand. Grandpa is essentially a corpse. I just realized right now that my brother is snoring. He's snoring so loud, and you guys could probably hear that the whole time. I was so locked in that I didn't hear it. It's so loud. Wow, 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 wow. Anyway, ignoring the incredibly loud snoring of my brother, Leatherface is still trying to get Grandpa to just like grip the knife. You know that episode of SpongeBob?
Firmly grasp it. Firmly grasp it!
That's basically what this is, but Grandpa won't firmly grasp it because I don't think he has the muscle capability to do so. Leatherface is struggling to get Grandpa to just grip the hammer, let alone use it. There's one point where he gets it into his hand and Grandpa is like, ew. He drops it a little bit. They struggle around with that, and then Hitchhiker's getting really excited. He's like, oh, just let me do it. I can do it. I can do it. And then he's like, just give me the hammer. And he reaches for the hammer and lets go of Sally, and Sally does not need any further prompting to start running because she's a runner, she's a track star. She got the memo immediately. Sally runs and once again jumps out of a window. This girl does not care. If she needs to escape and there's a window, she's jumping out of the window. It does not matter. After once again jumping out of a window, Sally starts to limp away and Hitchhiker comes running out after her. He catches up very quickly, but he wants to play around with her, so he's really just slashing at her with a knife, not really grabbing her yet. Leatherface comes out too. He has his chainsaw. They're both running after her. Hitchhiker chases her out onto a road. He's messing with her, grabbing her, pushing her around as we watch as a semi-truck approaches. And I'm sure you can immediately assume what happens, but in case you can't, I'm going to tell you and probably show you. Anyway, Sally runs out of the way just in time as the semi-truck blows its horn and proceeds to just mow down Hitchhiker. And when I say mow down, I don't mean he gets hit and then he moves out of the way. No, he rolls under this truck. The truck comes to a stop and the truck driver gets out. He sees Sally come running from around the truck towards him. He goes over to help Sally, but as he's running towards her, Leatherface also runs out from behind the truck and he's like, no. He turns right back around. No hesitation. He gets back into the truck. Sally gets there in enough time. I'm sure he would have closed that door and pulled off if she wasn't there in enough time. But she's there in enough time. And he pulls her inside, closes the door. Leatherface is at the door, slicing at it. For some reason, instead of deciding to just drive off, the trucker helps Sally get out from the other side, the passenger side, and they both crawl out together. The trucker grabs a wrench, very large one, before he leaves, and they start running together as Leatherface chases them. As they run together, this just extra clutch OG truck driver turns around, has the wrench in hand, beams Leatherface in the head with it. Leatherface falls back, he drops his chainsaw, the chainsaw saws into his leg. He's like, owie. And then he's like, all right, walk it off. He gets up, grabs the chainsaw, starts limping after them anyway. Another truck, not a semi-truck, just a regular car truck, starts driving by. And at first you think that it's gonna just drive past them because Sally's in the road stop, please stop, car. But no, it stops for her. And I watch as the trucker, the previous one, he runs by the truck and he's just still running as Sally gets into the back of this truck. This new truck almost doesn't start back up once Sally gets into the bed of it, but luckily for her, it does start up and it starts driving off with Sally in the back of it. Sally's in the back of this truck. As it's driving off, she's watching Leatherface and she is just crying and laughing. She is in absolute hysterics. You can only imagine how she's feeling. As Sally is drenched in blood, laughing, sobbing, screaming in the back of this truck, we see Leatherface swinging his chainsaw around in frustration. He's swinging it around. He's spinning in circles. He is clearly frustrated as his last victim gets away, and then everything cuts to black. And I am left wondering, as the movie ends, what happened to the trucker? Where did he go? He didn't get in the truck with Sally. He just kept running. He didn't get killed either. He just kept running that way. So what happened to the trucker? But with that question left to constantly weigh on my mind for the rest of eternity, that brings us to the end of the movie. And yes, I am proud of myself, because with that being the end of the movie and this being the end of my face, that means that for once in Glam and Gore history, I finished my makeup and the movie at the exact same time. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a great movie. It's beloved by all. And if you say that you don't love it, I'm honestly shocked by that. The original? You don't like the original? Wow. OG Leatherface, Sally, who is again the best final girl in history. Listen, Sydney's up there. Sydney's up there. But Sally? Again, I'm not entirely sure if this is the first slasher, but I know it's, if not, then it's one of the first slashers. I don't know these things, you know, I'm not a professional, I just work here. Don't hold me accountable for anything that I say. I don't actually know things. But again, that is the movie, and this is my face. Hold on, let me spray it. Don't rush me. Now this time around, I did have a general idea in mind for my face, because while I did forget to mention it in this movie during the dinner scene with Leatherface's family, Leatherface decides to get all dolled up, and he decides to put some makeup on his face. Well, not his face, but someone's face, for sure. He gets some makeup on his little mask, and the makeup features some blue eyeshadow, some red lipstick, and one eyebrow. And I wasn't doing one eyebrow, so. What do you think? I actually like it. I thought it would look more tacky, but I mean, it's me, so what can I say, you know? And actually, I didn't record for that long either. I'm getting better at this. What can I say? What can I say? What can I say? Hold your applause, please. Hold your applause. With all that out of the way, that does bring us to the end of the video, which of course means that it is my job to tell you to don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys don't comment often, but when you do, I love reading the comments. If you want to support me in any other ways, look at my previous videos. I have some playlists if you want to check them out. I have one for my Glam and Gore videos. I have one for my full face of first impressions. And I just also have other videos that don't fall into those categories. Check them out. You can also check my description, in which I have my Cashapp if you want to send me a couple dollars. Not mandatory, just a suggestion. Just a couple. None of you ever do, but you know, just one day someone might. No. Also, I have my Instagram in the description, and I never post on there, but this one for sure I'm gonna post. Promise. I'm gonna post it. But with that said, that does bring us to the end of the video, which of course means that I do not have an outro. I never do have an outro. I probably never will have an outro. At this point, not having an outro is my outro. However, if anyone knows what happened to the trucker, please let me know. I'm gonna be up all night trying to search what happened to the trucker, because I did not see him die. I just saw him run off. He didn't get in the truck. I'm confused. Where is he? What happened? Do we know his story? How far did he run? And did he ever get back to his truck? Inquiring minds would love to know. Okay, bye.